this is basically what's worked for me.
My name is Anthony. Welcome to the Scalability Podcast. Oh my God.
Before you hire a virtual assistant to do any kind of sales calls for you, make sure you watch this video. It could probably save you a ton of time, because I know for me personally, as somebody who owns a virtual assistant agency that is a B2B agency who has built a sales team and built a lot of clients off of just straight cold calls from my team setting up appointments for me to go pitch, this is basically what's worked for me. Now, before I get into like the actual softwares, I need you to understand that it doesn't really matter which softwares you use, what voice over IP systems, what CRMs you use, as long as they have these types of functionalities. Now, if you choose to use the same ones that I use, fantastic. But for me personally, like, for example, like HubSpot and Pipedrive, two great softwares. I personally like HubSpot because it helps me manage my whole business and not just like my sales pipeline, but Pipedrive is a great software. When it comes to different voice over IP systems, I personally use Dialpad, but there's a lot of other systems out there. And by the way, like Dialpad is not perfect. We are just kind of in bed with them right now, and we're probably going to transition away from them this year. But the important part is going to be the functionality. Now, if you are thinking about hiring a virtual assistant, you've probably already either figured out how to hire them, or you probably bought my course on how to hire virtual assistants, and you got that part taken care of, right? Because that's like a whole challenge in itself. But assuming now you found the right person, in the Philippines, Latin America, wherever, you found the right person that you believe is going to be that VA who can start making calls and representing you and your business. Now it's time to basically get them set up for success. So many times I run into business owners who, they don't even know what phone their virtual assistant is using. They make their virtual assistant work off of spreadsheets. And there's just so many different scenarios that I've actually ran into. So what this is going to teach you today is how to create those systems so that you can make sure that your virtual assistant is being productive, so that you can make sure that you can see all of the activity that's happening. You can listen in on phone calls. You can, actually keep track of your lead list. And, eventually when that lead list starts turning into deals, you can even start keeping track of that pipeline, right? And also another thing too, something about spreadsheets or, some people have multiple spreadsheets that their virtual assistants work off of, and it's horrible because today you have one virtual assistant. Let's say that you are successful. You come up with a good script. They start making good calls, connecting you. You start closing deals because of this virtual assistant. And the next thing you know, you're like, hey, let's hire another one. And then let's hire another one. And let's hire another one. Well, if your systems are not set up properly to support them, you're just going to basically be building a house on sand, right? So everything that I do, I'm constantly trying to make sure that whatever it is that I do, I'm building on a foundation that is constantly scalable. So for example, let's say that I hire one virtual assistant and they're with me for 6 months, and they were killing it for 6 months. Something in their life happens. They end up having a kid, or I don't know, just anything. Like, man, one of my guys, he freaking got into an accident in the Philippines, and he drives a motorcycle and bumped his head. Luckily, he's okay now. But let's say something really bad would have happened. What do I do now? Right, as a business owner, right? What do I do now? And realistically, you should have systems in your business, and this starts with the lead generation and the sales, and it really affects every part of your business. But you should have systems where it does not matter whether or not that virtual assistant is here or not. You should know what's going on. You shouldn't have to call a VA and say, hey, that customer that you dialed who was interested in our service, we pitched him. What was his name, or what was his number, or have you followed up with him, or right? It should never ever be that way. You should always have a system where if that virtual assistant's not there and you hire another one, that one person can basically pick up where another person left off. And then if you start looking at it on a higher level, it's not just virtual assistants, it's any employee that is within your business, period. You as a CEO, managers, directors, whoever should be able to look into this system and pick up where somebody else left off. standard operating procedures, this should be inside of your business from day one. And if you have, and what's really cool is like if you're choosing the right systems, you don't even really have to be disciplined to do this, right? Now, there might be extra steps that you might want them to take to keep those systems updated, but the ideal system that you're going to implement is a system that works whether or not you use it. Okay, so we're just gonna touch on that a little bit. And let's go ahead and just like actually hop in here, right? So as you can see, like right here inside of HubSpot, I have access to quite a few different HubSpots because I'm a very big like HubSpot evangelist. I love these guys. Again, whatever I build here, I know that I can build it inside of other CRMs. But for me personally, this is like what I have found works absolutely like best for me, right? And as you can see here, like we've been using this long enough to the point where we have 9,457 records inside of our database. And I can't show too much of the back end here because we do have like actual live deals that we've done, but pretty much what you're going to want to do is you can actually even set this up for free where you have a free HubSpot account. And I'm going to assume that you know where you're getting your leads from, okay? For us, I'll tell you where we got like 90% of our leads from was from LinkedIn. So we actually would go, so I don't have LinkedIn Sales Navigator anymore because like, as you can see, my database is like really, really full. And we were just using LinkedIn Navigator for basically for prospecting to get all of these to get all of the leads inside of our profile. But we're basically using LinkedIn Sales Navigator just for their database. And then we were coming into Rocket Reach here, and basically we were getting the phone numbers and emails from Rocket Reach. So I had one full-time virtual assistant that was just coming into that was just basically like I gave them a list of like, hey, here's my ideal client, and here's the parameters that I want, and I want you to go to LinkedIn and I want you to pull every single person out of LinkedIn that meets this criteria, right? And from there, they basically pulled these people out of LinkedIn and put them into our database, right? Okay, perfect. So I actually found a really good profile to show you. So like I was saying earlier, we actually found this guy here off of LinkedIn, and we were able to have one of our guys call him, right? So I'm trying to scroll all the way down to the bottom, but pretty much like this is a great example of a profile that was put in here by our sourcer. And then you can see here that this person was called by Joe. He was sent an email, and you can see like all the follow-up and pretty much everything that's happened. And then on the right side, you can see like all the deals that we've done with this company. I'm probably going to block off the information here to the left, but you guys pretty much get the idea, right? And all of this tracking here is done whether or not we, and all of this tracking here is done whether or not we actually update it. So because we're using a voice over IP as well as Google Workspaces on our emails, it auto logs into the profile that is tied here to the customer, right? So let's go ahead and hop here into our phone system. So we are using a system called Dialpad. Now, I don't like if you're like a one-man show, I don't really recommend Dialpad. I think there's a cool software here called Toki.co. It's a cheaper, let's just call it like a cheaper alternative to Dialpad. But pretty much here it'll integrate with HubSpot. And probably other CRMs too, and it only costs $20 a month, right, to get started. And with this one, you're just paying for like text and for emails, and it's pretty cheap. But yeah, so I would definitely use like a Toki HubSpot combo. Have probably the same virtual assistant you hired for your calls. You can probably have them also build out your database. And then from there, what's going to happen is you're going to start to see that you're starting to create like a scalable process, right? And that's just the very first part. Simply put, build your lead list, put it into your CRM, make sure there's a voice over IP system, make sure that that's another thing too, the virtual assistants without company emails. If you currently don't have a company email, if you don't have like whatever your business name is .com, that's a big mistake. I see a lot of people hire virtual assistants and then make them at Gmail because they want to save $6 a month. But first off, it looks unprofessional. Second, you're going to look corny to the people that are getting this outreach. No one's taking you serious if you're getting outreach from an @gmail.com. And third is, dude, you're losing the benefits of being able to tie that email into your CRM, right? Because again, we want to make sure that everything that virtual assistant ever does while they're with your company is logged and stored, because from just a reminder from what I said earlier, if they leave, you can pick up where they left off, another virtual assistant can pick up where they left off, and it's all automatically done, and we're not trusting them to do it themselves. So this is why we get software that's sticky like HubSpot, right? And when it comes to HubSpot too, like there's so many features inside of here. You have like the contacts page, conversations, marketing, sales, service automation, reports. Don't even worry about any of that. Like when you're first getting started, all you're really going to be focused on is integrating your voice over IP and getting the contacts in here. Like that's it. And then eventually once that virtual assistant starts booking appointments, and then we can go to the sales and the deals flow, and then we can go to all that. And I'll make a completely separate video on how your deal flows should work and like your mindset behind deal flow. But realistically, if you get this first part nailed down, this is setting up your company. This is setting you up for success with your first cold calling virtual assistant. Okay. So again, if you guys have any questions on this, feel free to comment. Follow me on Instagram at Anthony R. Olvera. Dude, I hope you guys are listening to the podcast because there's a lot more tactics on there just like this. And probably lastly is if you haven't looked into the course for how to hire a virtual assistant, make sure that you do so. Okay, so links should be below in the description. And yeah, guys, like and subscribe. Thanks.